All right, everyone. No Manchin 2024. Joe Manchin has officially ruled out a presidential run. So the no labelers right now, led by people like Andrew Yang, they're like, who are we going to get to run for us? It's not entirely clear that they're actually going to field a candidate at all. I don't know, they can try to get RFK Jr. to run with them and maybe give him some extra support. Might crack 10 points in the general if that happens, but it's not entirely clear. Manchin was always a long shot. It's quite clear that he has that sort of ambition. He's quite clearly ambitious for the presidential office. The problem is that he pissed away what had been a reasonably popular Senate career by backstabbing his own constituents, to the point where it was impossible for him to be reelected. You'll remember what happened with him is he actually got kudos from the people of West Virginia, most of which are Republicans, by the way. It's a heavily red state. He got kudos because he came out and he told people, I'm not really comfortable with the Infrastructure Act. It's got too much pork in it. It's too expensive. Can we really spend this much money at a time when, we're on the edge of recession? We got a bunch of other problems. Maybe we should, wait and do something else. And he said, so I'm a no vote, and I'm not really willing to change my mind. I would need to parse out a shit ton of this money in order to think about passing it. And so in public, he was a no. But behind closed doors, he was the entire time for the subsequent months, he was holding meetings with Biden and the others in the administration. And in the end, he voted in favor of it. Now, he had parsed out only a tiny chunk of the actual spending. The bill was 99% intact. The people of West Virginia said, we praised you for standing against this and effectively blocking it, because then without you, Biden doesn't have the votes to pass it. We were hoping you'd have some balls. They didn't even, a lot of them I don't think wanted him to even bother negotiating on the bill. They just wanted him to block it outright. And in fact, it would still be blocked today if Joe Manchin hadn't cucked on it. But he did cuck. And so he pissed away his Senate career. Now, that forms a problem, because you were appealing to certain independent voting blocks, including some that are right-leaning. Of course, Joe Manchin does the Jesus thing too, so it can be helpful. He's less anti-gun than the average Democrat. He seems to be relatively religious, at least on the surface. This is common in D.C., but that was sort of his block. It included some Republican voters and also right-wing independents. That was his constituency. A lot of Democrats didn't support him. The more left-wing Democrats fucking hate Joe Manchin. The problem, therefore, is that the main bloc that you would do well with, that might vote for you in a general election, by the way, if you ran for the presidency, largely crumbled. He'd be ahead of RFK Jr. had he not done that. Had he decided, at the time of the infrastructure bill, to come out and say, I'm blocking the bill, I'm not going to vote for it under any circumstances unless it's extremely cut down to size. Otherwise, I cannot support it. I'm blocking it unilaterally. I'm also leaving the Democratic Party. I'm going to be running for the presidency as an independent. Had Joe Manchin done that, he'd be riding ahead of where RFK Jr. is right now, and RFK Jr. probably would not have bothered to run at all. Manchin would have had significant support. He would have even siphoned some Republicans, but he lost that chance. He pissed away his independent voting bloc that would have backed him by and large, I think. He would have actually been a threat to the Democrats and the Republicans at the same time, because he has some Dem support for having been a Democrat, some Republican support by having been West Virginian, relatively popular. Again, the only reason he got the Senate job is because he had been a reasonably popular governor, but he rolled that over into a fairly successful congressional career. And he would have had a shit ton of independent support, especially among people who are skeptical of both Biden and Trump. But they're not far left, so they're not going to vote for like Cornel West or Jill Stein or something like that. It could have been a 6-7-way race. But he missed his opportunity. And I think he's intelligent enough to rationally understand that. This is where he differs from maybe Nikki Haley or somebody like that. At some point, he understood it's just not going to happen. And so there's no point. Why would I bother running? There's no possibility of me winning. If Manchin were to get in, since he did piss away that independent support, he'd stall out in Cornel West territory. He'd have like 3 points or something like that. No chance whatsoever in hell. I guarantee that he conducted internal polling. I think that he's interested in the concept, but he realizes it's not going to happen. So unlike most politicians, at the very least, he has the intelligence to understand that when the music stops and the gig is up. So we can give him credit for that, I suppose. That was really the torpedoing, the self-sabotage of what could have been a considerable political career. He could have become the President of the United States. Hell, had he not fucked around, had he opposed Biden and said, well, we needed fresh meat in the party, I'm going to run in the Dem primaries, he probably would have actually been viable. He probably would have risen up to like DeSantis territory. At the very least, there would have been a threat against Joe Biden being primaried. There never was a threat that materialized in the primary. Biden is running the field just like Trump is. By the way, again, not many days until South Carolina. And then, other than topically covering Super Tuesday, assuming that the states even bother to hold a vote because Trump no longer has an opponent at that point, then stick a fork in it, it's done as far as even doing the political live streams until the general and the debates that may or may not, by the way, happen. Well, I'm very, very excited about this election cycle. I'm optimistic that Trump will be reelected. I think he's being martyred at the moment, and it's actually going to help him politically. While I am optimistic, as a content creator that does a lot of political analysis, it's actually a thorn in my side because a competitive primary would mean more live streams. After Super Tuesday, what the fuck am I supposed to do for several months? I'll still do my regular streams, but as far as special live streams for election coverage, which get twice as much audience, there's nothing there because there's no race anymore. Hell, even Super Tuesday is not going to be particularly exciting, and again, it'll be Trump getting 99% of the vote. So at least we get to see Big Don turn the entire country into a Trump land at that point. That'll be fun. I'll still cover it. I promise. I'll cover Super Tuesday. It's just, I don't know. I'll keep it shorter than normal because there's not going to be any reason to really analyze the results because we all know what the results will be. Just like with South Carolina, the only reason I'm going to cover that is because Nikki Haley gets crushed in her own home state, and she very, very likely, the race is likely to be called as soon as the exit polls come in, before any of the votes are even tabulated. You're probably going to see a check mark by Trump's name, and Nikki Haley will pound down a couple of hard ones and then probably come out and announce that she's stepping out. Whether or not she endorses Trump or Biden is actually the biggest question of the night, which will be funny. But there won't be a Joe Manchin, so one would-be potential spoiler for the election has stood down. There will be no Manchin ticket. At this point, the only one in third party with any name recognition and viability who could, crack 10 points is RFK Jr. That's about all. Peace out.